The folder is sitting on my desk when I arrive. It is a Tuesday morning in November. The city outside is the color of wet concrete. My coffee is still too hot to drink, and I'm holding it anyway, letting the heat press into my palm because sometimes I need something to press against. I sit down. I open the folder. It's the candidate shortlist for the Senior Strategy Director position. 3 names, 3 resumes, and I'm only supposed to pick one. The third name is Clara Voss. I set the coffee down. I read it again, just the name. Not the resume, not the headshot clipped to the top right corner, just the name. The way you'd look at a scar you forgot you had and suddenly remember the exact moment you got it, Clara Voss. We graduated on the same day from the same program at Westfield University. It was a warm June afternoon, and there were 200 families in the audience, and my mother had driven 6 hours from her sister's place in Ohio because she wanted a photograph. And Clara Voss stood at the podium as student representative, the best student in the cohort, and gave a speech about excellence and integrity and the future we were all stepping into. And then, at the reception afterward, in front of her friends and mine, she laughed. That's how I think about it now. Not what she said, just the laugh. I didn't cry. I want to be clear about that. I didn't make a scene. I stood there, and I absorbed it the way you absorb a punch when you were not expecting one. Not gracefully, not stoically, just completely. And then I set my champagne glass down on a nearby table and I walked to my car, and I sat in the parking lot for 40 minutes until my hands stopped feeling strange. My sister called me 3 times. I didn't pick up. That was 10 years ago. I look at the headshot now. She looks the same. A little more composed around the eyes, maybe. Professional smile, the kind that has been practiced. Dark hair pulled back, a small silver earring. I look like a completely different person from the one who stood in that reception hall. I close the folder. I pick up my coffee. And I think, I am going to be completely fair to her. I am going to be professional and measured, and I'm going to let the quality of her work speak for itself. I think that for approximately 11 seconds. And then Marcus walks in. Marcus Webb has known me since we were 23, which means he has seen me in every configuration I have ever been in. He sat across from me in a 6-square-meter office when we started this company with a shared bank account and a domain name. He watched me close my first major deal, and he watched me lose one that still stings. He is the only person at this company who knocks on my door and then immediately opens it without waiting. He does that now. You've seen the short list, he says. He is not asking. I've seen it. He walks in, drops into the chair across from my desk, and looks at me with the kind of look that means he already knows what I'm thinking and is waiting for me to admit it. I don't. She's the strongest candidate, he says, by a significant margin. Her portfolio from the Meridian run before it folded is actually impressive, considering what she was working with. I know. Her references are clean. The panel liked her in the preliminary round. I know, Marcus. He tilts his head slightly. Is there something I'm missing? There is a specific kind of friendship where you have told the other person almost everything, but not quite everything. There are rooms in every relationship that stay closed, not out of mistrust, but out of a quiet understanding that some things change in the telling. Some things become smaller when you explain them. Some things become larger. I never told Marcus about graduation. I told Renata. I told no one else. She's in the final round, I say. Interview is Thursday. Marcus watches me for another moment. He is very good at watching people. It is genuinely one of his best professional skills. Okay, he says. He stands. Thursday. He gets to the door and then pauses. Daniel? Yeah. Whatever it is, just make sure it's not in the room with you on Thursday. He leaves before I can respond. I turn to the window. The city is still wet, still gray. A pigeon is sitting on the ledge outside, completely still, with the expression of something that has given up on expecting weather to improve. I think I am the CEO of a company I built from nothing. I have sat across from people who have tried to destroy this business, who have lied to my face in depositions, who have poached my clients and my staff. I have been calm in every single one of those rooms. I can be calm on Thursday. I can. Renata calls me on Wednesday night. This is not unusual. She calls on Wednesday nights the way other people water plants, out of habit, out of care, because she decided years ago that she would, and she has not stopped deciding it since. How's work? She asks. Fine. You sound like fine is what you say when something is not fine. I'm a CEO, Renata. I always sound like that. She makes a small sound, a hum, skeptical. There is a noise in the background that sounds like her son Felix demanding something with the confident urgency that only 5-year-olds possess. 1 second, she says, and then muffled, Felix, the crackers are on the second shelf. Back to me. Sorry. How is he? Exhausting, wonderful, both constantly. A pause. He asked me last week where Daddy went. She says this in the same tone she says everything. Level, dry, with something underneath it that she does not advertise. Her husband left 14 months ago. She does not dramatize this. She simply moves through it the way she moves through everything. Forward, with specific attention to what is directly in front of her. What did you tell him? I ask. I told him Daddy moved to a different city for work, which is technically true. Another pause. He accepted this. He's 5. He's very forgiving. I sit with that for a moment. Renata, I say, Clara Voss is interviewing at my company tomorrow. Silence. Not the comfortable kind. Oh, she says. Just that. She's the best candidate for the position. Genuinely, on paper, she's right for it. Daniel, I'm going to be professional. I know you're going to be professional. That's not what I'm worried about. I ask what she is worried about. She says quietly, I'm worried that being professional is going to be the way you punish her without admitting that's what you're doing. I don't have an answer for that. After we hang up, I stand at the kitchen counter for a long time. I'm not doing anything. I'm not cooking or making coffee or looking at my phone. I'm just standing there, one hand flat on the cool tile, and I'm listening to the apartment. It is very quiet. I have built a quiet life. I notice this now in a way I don't usually let myself notice it. The apartment is clean and ordered, and the furniture is good quality, and there is no one else in it. I chose this. I chose to put everything into the company, the work, the building of something that would outlast the version of me that stood in that parking lot, not knowing what to do with his hands. I think, am I going to punish her? I think about it honestly, I don't know. Thursday, I arrive early. I always arrive early. The office in the morning, before the building fills up, has a quality of light I genuinely like. Low, clean, coming in from the east side in long flat lines that make even my desk look like it belongs in a better story than the one I'm usually in. Owen Price is already there. He is always already there. He is 24 years old and he arrives at 7:15 every morning with an enthusiasm that is either going to make him exceptional or burn him down by 30. I haven't decided which. He hands me a summary sheet for the day's interviews. 3 candidates, he says. Ms. Voss is last, 2 o'clock. Thank you, Owen. He hovers for just a moment too long. He does this when he wants to say something that is not strictly work-related. She worked at Meridian before it folded, he says. I read her portfolio last night. She built their entire client retention framework from scratch. It's really... He stops. Sorry, you've obviously read it. I have. Right. He nods, starts to leave. Then, she seems like exactly what we need. He says it without guile. With genuine admiration for work he has read on paper. He says it the way I used to say things when I was that age, and the world still felt navigable by quality alone. I watch him go. I think, don't let this cost him. The first 2 interviews go well. Fine. Standard. The 2 candidates are competent, prepared, slightly forgettable in the way that competent, prepared people sometimes are. And then it is 2 o'clock, and the door opens, and Clara Voss walks in. She is exactly as I remember, and she is a completely different person. That is not a contradiction. The structure is the same. The way she holds herself, the precision of her posture, the careful, composed quality of her expression, but the edges have changed. There is something around her eyes that wasn't there at 22, a kind of careful steadiness that looks like it was earned rather than inherited. She walks into the conference room and she sees me and she does not hesitate. Not even a flicker. Nothing. No recognition. None. I am watching her face with the attention of someone who has replayed a moment thousands of times and there is nothing there. She shakes my hand and says, "Mr. Ashford, thank you for seeing me," in a voice that is professional and warm and utterly free of any memory of me. I sit across from her. I say, "Let's begin." The interview is, and this is genuinely the most disorienting part, excellent. She is precise without being clinical. She actually listens in the way that most candidates don't. You can see her processing a question in real time instead of reaching for a preloaded answer. When Marcus asks her about the Meridian failure, she doesn't flinch, and she doesn't over-explain. She says, "I built something strong on a foundation I didn't control. What I do differently is spend the first 90 days understanding the structural vulnerabilities before building anything on top of them." And then she looks at Marcus and says, "But I'd like to ask you the same question in reverse. What vulnerabilities are you most worried about here?" Marcus almost smiles. I see it. He suppresses it. I ask my questions. She answers them. I am professional. I am measured. My voice is the same as it always is in these rooms, not warm, not cold, just neutral in the way that a good interview should be neutral. But inside I am having a completely different experience. Inside I am 22 and I am in a reception hall and I am hearing laughter that is aimed at me and I am feeling my face do something involuntary that I have to physically override. I am watching this woman speak with intelligence and composure, and I am genuinely unsure whether what I feel is respect or fury, and I cannot tell if those two things can exist at the same time. I don't know if that makes me complicated or simply human. I don't know. The interview ends. We thank her. She shakes our hands again. She shakes my hand and looks me in the eye and says, "I hope to hear from you soon." And there is still nothing there. She is gone. Marcus and I are alone in the room. He says, "Whatever it is, it's going to be a problem if she gets this job, isn't it?" "Run the panel scores," I say. He runs them. She is first, by 8 points. I give Owen the task of conducting the reference checks. This is standard procedure. It is not something I usually oversee personally, but I find myself in his office at 4:30, sitting in the chair across from his desk, which is embarrassing for both of us because he is my subordinate and he is 24, and suddenly I am the one sitting on the other side. He is visibly surprised but adapts quickly. He is good at adapting. I like that about him. "Is there anything specific you want me to focus on?" he asks. "Her work under pressure," I say, and her references sense of her personal conduct, how she treats people who are not useful to her. Owen writes this down. He doesn't ask why. He is smart enough to know that some questions are requests for information and some questions are something else. I go back to my office. I sit in the quiet. I open my laptop and I do something I haven't done in 10 years. I search her name. Not professionally, not the LinkedIn profile I already know. I search Clara Voss and Westfield University and I let the old results surface. There is a photograph from the graduation ceremony. It is in a faculty roundup on the university's news page, already a decade archived. She is at the podium, mid-speech, and she looks luminous and confident and 22. And there I am, 5th row off center, not looking at the podium, looking at the ground. The photograph doesn't know what is about to happen. It doesn't know about the reception or the laughter or the parking lot. Photographs are very stupid in that way. I close the laptop. I sit with my hands flat on my desk for a moment, and then I do something that surprises even me. I pick up my phone. I call Renata. "Tell me something kind," I say. She doesn't ask why. She knows. She says, "Felix drew a picture of our family today. He put you in it. He gave you a cape." I sit with that for a moment. "Did he?" He said, and I'm quoting directly, Uncle Daniel is very tall and probably has a cape. Something loosens in my chest. Just a small thing, but real. I don't have a cape, I say. I know, I told him you have a very nice coat. He said that was almost the same thing. I smile at my desk, alone, in the quiet, not performing it for anyone. I'm going to offer her the job, I say. I know, Renata says. I know you are, because it's the right thing to do and you already knew that. Yeah? Are you going to tell her? I think about it. Not yet, I say. Maybe not ever. Renata makes a sound I can't quite interpret. Not agreement, not disagreement. Just the sound of someone choosing very carefully not to argue right now. Clara starts on a Monday. The first weeks are correct, professionally correct. She is good at her job in the specific way that makes other people better at theirs, which is the rarest kind of good. She has a session with the strategy team in her third week where she maps out the company's client retention architecture on a whiteboard, and I stand at the back of the room and watch people's posture change as they start to understand what she's showing them. Owen is practically vibrating. I keep my distance. Not visibly. I attend the meetings I'm supposed to attend. I give feedback when asked. I treat her with the same professional courtesy I give every senior staff member. But I keep a specific kind of distance, the distance of someone who knows something that the other person doesn't, and is deciding on a daily basis what to do with that knowledge. Marcus notices. Of course he does. You keep looking at her like she owes you money, he says one morning. That is not what I'm doing. It's not exactly not what you're doing. I tell him to focus on the Henderson account. He focuses on the Henderson account. But he gives me a look on his way out the door. One of those looks that means, I'm letting this go for now, but I'm putting a pin in it. The thing I don't expect is the small moments. There is a moment in the break room on a Wednesday where she is making tea and she drops the spoon and she says under her breath, completely unaware of me in the doorway, "Oh, for crying out loud." And then she laughs quietly at herself. Just a small private laugh at her own small private frustration. It is such an ordinary human thing. I stand in the doorway and I watch it happen, and I feel something complicated stir in me that I do not immediately have a name for. She turns and sees me. Sorry, she says, drop my spoon. I saw, I say. She looks at me for just a moment. Something in my tone, not hostile, but not warm either, seems to land somewhere in her peripheral awareness, not as a memory, not as recognition, just as a texture she isn't sure how to read. I'll get out of your way, she says. You're fine, I say. She nods and goes. I stand in the break room alone. I think, I was not fine at 22. You didn't think about that. It is week 6 when it happens. There is a company dinner, end of quarter, a long-standing tradition. Rented out a room in the restaurant 2 blocks from the office, everyone in business casual, the kind of event where the professional and personal layers of a company blur just enough to be interesting. I'm at the bar ordering a drink I don't particularly want when Clara appears beside me. Good quarter, she says. It was, I agree. She orders a glass of wine. We stand there for a moment in the particular awkwardness of 2 people who work closely together but have never actually talked about anything that isn't a spreadsheet. Can I ask you something? She says. Go ahead. Do I make you uncomfortable? I look at her. She's looking straight forward at the bar, not at me. Her voice is neutral, but something in the question is genuine, not confrontational, just curious. Direct in the way some people are when they've decided not to perform their way through a question. What makes you ask that? I say. You're careful. With me? More careful than with anyone else. She finally looks at me. I've been in enough workplaces to know when someone has an opinion of me they're not expressing. I look back at my drink. This is the moment. I can feel it. The kind of moment that can go 3 or 4 different directions, and I genuinely do not know, standing here, what I am about to do. We've met before, I say. Her expression doesn't change dramatically. A slight shift. Recalibration. Have we? Westfield. We graduated the same year. same program. She looks at me. Actually looks. Studying my face with the careful attention of someone searching a room for something they know should be there. I'm sorry, she says. I don't. She shakes her head slightly. I'm sorry, I don't remember. That program had 200 graduates. I know, I say. Were we friends? No, I say, we weren't. I leave it there. Something shifts in her. She's watching me now with a different kind of attention. The question is alive between us now, unasked but present. Then what? I pick up my drink. You've been excellent so far, I say. And I mean it, and I hate slightly that I mean it. I walk back toward the tables. She looks it up. I know because Owen tells me, not intentionally. He mentions in passing that Clara had asked him about the early days of the company and whether Daniel had gone to Westfield. Owen, who tells me things with the earnest transparency of someone who has not yet learned that information is complicated, says, I told her you were in the management program there. She seemed really interested. Okay, I say. Was that fine to say? You didn't say anything you shouldn't have, Owen. He nods, relieved. He starts to leave. Owen. He turns. How are you finding it? The work, the company? He looks slightly surprised by the question. Not that I asked it, but by the gentleness of how I asked it. He is still young enough to be surprised by gentleness from authority. Honestly, he says, it's the best job I've ever had. I know that's only my second job, so statistically it's not saying much, but he stops, tries again. I feel like what I do here matters, not just the client stuff, but like the way you and Marcus built this place, the way people treat each other here. It feels like someone made deliberate decisions about what kind of place this would be. I sit with that. We did, I say. He nods. And there is something in the way he nods, with that whole body certainty of someone who is still building their belief system and has found something worth putting in it, that reaches me. I think I built a good place. I did that. Not because I was trying to be impressive, because I remembered what it felt like to be small in a room, and I decided as specifically as I could that this room would not feel like that. It is not an accident that this thought arrives right now. It has Clara's name on it, even if I don't say that out loud. She comes to my office. It is a Thursday afternoon past 5, when most of the floor has already cleared out. She knocks. She waits. She is carrying a folder, and her posture is the posture of someone who has decided to say something and is not going to undecide it. Do you have a few minutes? I do. She sits down. She sets the folder on her lap. She does not open it immediately. I looked up the graduation photos, she says. I wait. I found one where you were in the 5th row. She looks up at me. I found another one from the reception. My body is completely still. She opens the folder. Inside is a printout, an old photo from someone's personal blog post, a roundup of graduation memories uploaded years ago and forgotten. The reception, blurry with the particular grain of 2015 smartphones, a group of people mid-laugh, and at the edge of the frame, me, and in the center, her. She puts it on the desk between us. I don't remember this, she says. I'm not saying that to dismiss it. When I look at this photo, I see myself, and I see people I was close to at the time, and I know that we were celebrating, and there was champagne and a lot of noise, and I know that we were being unkind sometimes in the way that groups of 22-year-olds can be unkind without meaning to make it a thing. She stops. I don't remember specific moments, but I believe you. I look at the photograph. I look at it for a long time. What exactly, she says very carefully, did I do? The thing about carrying something for 10 years is that you expect it to have grown into something with real weight, real size, something you could put in a box and show someone. But when I try to explain it, when I try to translate it from the felt sense into language, it sounds so small. You laughed at me at a party. That is what it was. That is the whole of it. And yet, I'd asked you something, I say. Before the ceremony, I came up to you. I said I'd admired your work all year, and I asked if you wanted to get coffee after. I keep my voice even. I am good at keeping my voice even. You said no, that was fine, that was completely your right, but then you turned back to your friends and you laughed and you said something. I didn't hear all of it and they laughed too, and you looked back at me once and then you looked away. She is very still. I wasn't angry, I say. I want you to understand that. I wasn't devastated. I was 22 and I asked someone out and she said no. That part was ordinary. The look was different. Clara's looking at the photograph. She's not trying to remember and she's not trying to defend herself. She's just sitting in it. I'm sorry, she says. Just that. I look at her. She looks up from the photograph and meets my eyes, and there is something in her face that has no performance in it at all. It is not the carefully managed professional composure I've been watching for 6 weeks. It is the face of someone sitting in a thing they cannot undo. I was 22 and I was unkind, and I have thought, since I found that photo yesterday, about who I was that year and how much I would not like her if I met her now. I think about what Renata said. Being professional is going to be the way you punish her. I have a choice in this room. I can feel the weight of it. I pick up the photograph. I look at it for one more moment. The blurry party light, the laughing group, the edge of a frame, and the edge of a young man who had not yet decided what to do with the world. I put it face down on the desk. It was a long time ago, I say, not as a dismissal, as a fact I am choosing to place down alongside everything else. That doesn't make it. No, I say, it doesn't. But I've been carrying it as if it defined something, as if it was the summary of who you were. I look at her. You're not that person anymore. I can see that. I've been watching you for 6 weeks and I can see that clearly. She makes a small sound. Not quite a laugh, not quite not one. You've been watching me for 6 weeks, Shortlist, she says. I run a company. I watch everyone. That's not what you mean. No, I say, it's not what I mean. A silence comes into the room. The good kind. Not the absence of things, but the presence of something that hasn't been named yet. She looks at her hands briefly, then back at me. When you interviewed me, she says, when you were sitting across from me and I had no idea, well, were you going to not hire me? Is that what was happening? I consider lying. I decide against it. I thought about it. But you didn't. No? Why? I think about how to say the true thing. Because the company mattered more than the wound, I say. And because at some point in the middle of that interview, I realized that the person you are now had nothing to answer for from who you were then. I pause. I'm still not entirely sure I believe that. But I acted as if I did. She watches me. That's more self-aware than most people would be in that position, she says. I've had 10 years to practice. The corner of her mouth moves, not quite a smile. Just the small movement of someone recognizing an honest thing. Can I stay in this job? She asks. Yes, I say, you earned it. Completely independently of any of this. She nods slowly. She picks up the folder, sets the photograph inside it, closes it. She stands. She's at the door when she turns. Daniel, she says, it is the first time she has used my name, not Mr. Ashford, not the professional shorthand. My name. Yes. Thank you for not pretending everything was fine. She leaves. I turn my chair toward the window. The city is dark now, lit from below the way cities are at night. Not the light of the sky, but the light thrown upward from everything alive down there. I breathe. I think. That was the heaviest thing I've been carrying, and I just put it down. It is strange how ordinary it feels. Marcus finds out. Not all of it. I tell him the necessary version, which is, we knew each other at university, there was a history, it has been addressed. He is quiet for longer than I expect. Then he says, how long have you been sitting on this? Since the interview. Since Daniel. Since the interview. That was 2 months ago. I'm aware. He leans back. He looks at me with the expression he gets when he is deciding whether to be my friend or my COO, and usually the answer is both at the same time. And now? He asks. Now it's handled. Is it? Yes. He studies me. You don't look like someone who just put something down. You look like someone who just realized how long they were holding it. That is accurate. Irritatingly accurate. She's good at the job, I say. She's excellent at the job. Then that's what matters, Marcus nods. He looks unconvinced, but he is, at his core, a person who understands when an argument has reached the border of someone else's territory, and he does not cross it. There's a small thing, he says, standing. What? Owen came to me this morning to tell me that Clara apparently ran his quarterly review for him on her own initiative and told him he should be asking for a promotion by spring. I pause. She ran a review for someone who doesn't report to her. She ran a review and then told him very specifically what he was worth and why he should advocate for himself. Marcus gives me a flat look. I thought you might want to know. I think about Owen. 24 and whole body certain about things the way I used to be, before the parking lot, before the 40 minutes with my hands on the steering wheel. She saw him, I say, mostly to myself. Apparently. Something in my chest does the same thing it did when Renata told me about the cape. That small loosening. That specific quiet thing. The mirror moment. It is 3 months after she joins. December. There is an end-of-year company event here, a rooftop venue, heated lamps. The city spread out below in all its cold, glittering detail, the kind of night that feels like a chapter ending and a chapter beginning at the same time. I am standing at the edge of the rooftop with a drink, alone for a moment. The way I often am at these things, not because I don't like people, but because I genuinely like the brief pause. The moment of watching rather than performing. Clara walks over. She stands beside me. She doesn't ask if she can. She just does. And there is something about the ease of it that strikes me. The difference between the careful professional she was in October and whoever she is being right now here, in December, at the edge of a rooftop in the cold. It's a good company, she says, looking out at the city. Thank you. I mean it in a specific way. Not just, the numbers are good, the culture is healthy. I mean, you can feel in the way people work here that someone built it on purpose, that someone made decisions about what kind of place this would be. Owen's words, almost exactly, in her mouth. I turn to look at her. Someone told me something similar recently, I say. She turns to look at me too. We are very close standing here. The cold air is between us and also not between us. I've been thinking, she says, about who I was at 22, not in a self-flagellating way, just thinking about what I was optimizing for then. I was very focused on being the best, and I think somewhere in that I stopped being kind, casually kind, the way you should just be to people who are standing in the same room as you. I listen. I don't think I was cruel. I don't think I was deliberately unkind. I think I was just absent from other people's experience of being in the room with me. She pauses. That's almost worse, isn't it? Cruelty at least acknowledges the other person exists. I look at her for a long time. Yes, I say. It is almost worse. And she receives this. She doesn't flinch from it, doesn't hurry past it. She just stands there and receives it. The city below us is very bright. Someone inside has put on music. Something warm and low, barely reaching us out here. I was 22, I say, and I was in love with the idea of you. I want to be honest about that because it matters to what I was actually grieving. It wasn't really about you. It was about the version of myself who was brave enough to walk up to someone and ask. She is very still beside me. I went home that year and I buried everything and I built something. And the something is good. The something is genuinely good. I pause, but I've been carrying the burial along with the building. A long silence. What are you going to do with it? She asks. And here is the thing. I am standing at the edge of a rooftop in December, and I genuinely do not know what I'm about to say. I am not performing uncertainty. I am simply inside the moment, not knowing how it resolves. I think I'm going to set it down, I say, and see what's under it. She looks at me. Not the professional look, not the careful, composed interview face, just her face, steady and warm and a little tired and genuinely present in a way that I realize I have been watching grow over these 3 months without letting myself call it what it is. That seems like a reasonable thing to do, she says. Her shoulder is very close to mine. The city hums below us. Clara? I say, yeah. Do you want to get coffee at some point? Not a work thing? She is quiet for just a moment. Yes, she says. I do. She looks back at the city and I look back at the city, and we stand there in the cold side by side, both of us looking at all those lights. We get coffee on a Saturday morning in January. The cafe is 3 blocks from the office and has nothing to do with the office, which feels important. We are not colleagues here. We are 2 people in winter coats sitting across from each other with ceramic mugs and nowhere to be. She is different outside of work, less precise somehow. She uses her hands when she talks. She makes a face at the coffee she's too bitter and does not hide the face. You're a person, I say. She looks at me. I am a person. At work, you're very assembled. You're one to talk. I acknowledge this. She wraps both hands around her mug. The January light is coming through the window and it is cold and clear and very still. Can I ask you something? She says. Yes. When you hired me, knowing what you knew, was there a part of you that wanted to be able to watch me, like watch whether I was someone worth being angry at or someone you could let go of? I consider this. Yes, I say. I think there was. And you were neither. You were just a person, a good one, largely, with blind spots you've spent the last few years looking directly at. I look at her, which takes more than most people do. She is quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, she says, the version of you I've gotten to know over the past 3 months, that man has a very good cape. I blink. What? Your sister. She told me the cape story at the holiday party. I may have cornered her intentionally. Something breaks open quietly in my chest. Not a crack. More like a window opening. Renata doesn't know when to stop talking, I say. Renata is wonderful, and she loves you in a very specific and devoted way. Clara looks at me with something in her face that has no professional language for it. It is just real, just warm, just here. And I think you're going to be fine, Daniel Ashford. She says it simply, not as a prediction, as a thing she already knows. I look at her across the table. The cafe is quiet around us. The winter light is clean on the walls. Someone behind the counter is doing something with small, clattering sounds that are not intrusive, just present. Just the sound of a Saturday morning going about its business. I reach across the table. I set my hand over hers where it is wrapped around the mug. She doesn't move. She looks down at our hands and then she looks up at me and she doesn't say anything and I don't say anything. The window between us is open. That is enough. That is more than enough.